listening to the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman, episode 213. On today's Small and Supercharged podcast, we're joined by the very lovely Ruth Chappell, who might be sick of the sight, sound, and everything else of me. Well, actually, I'm sure she is, because Ruth, bless her heart, you might know her from Dressage Anywhere, but she's been my little knight in shining text helping with this book. Look, it's not a great metaphor. How are you doing, Ruth?
Yeah, I'm really good. Bit hot, but you know.
Yeah, we decided to record this on the hottest day of the year so far. So we're both. I'm pleased you can't see. You can't see. Put it that way.
No.
So Ruth, we got a book into the world.
Hooray! At last.
At last, hurrah! I know people are keen to know how, and I thought that as really anything I did, we had to redo, and anything you did, we didn't. I thought it would be better to have you on to talk about it. But first of all, obviously we know you from Dressage Anywhere, but the reason that you were involved in this project was I think I probably told you it was a good idea, but you've got form in this area, haven't you? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, in a previous life, I used to work in publishing. In fact, going back a little bit further than that, when I left school, I wanted to go into journalism. I don't know why. It just kind of, I like the media and things like that. And I thought, yeah, journalism career, that'd be really cool. And I ended up kind of messing up my A-levels a little bit. Yeah. As you do. And started looking around for university courses and things to do, and I ended up finding something quite practical, which I'm much more suited to. I'm not a particularly academic person, and it was a degree called Graphic Media Studies.
Oh, right.
Awarded by University of Hertfordshire, but based in the old printing college in Watford. And I went and did that, and I majored in publishing, and my minor was in media production management, so video and all that kind of thing. So I know some people kind of think, you know, media degrees, publishing degrees, you know, video, anything is a bit, but actually it's really good for people like me who, you know, I'm not going to be a scientist or a doctor or an accountant or anything like that, but something really practical to get my teeth into and actually do whilst I'm learning is much better. And part of that degree course had a year out in industry. So before I actually finished it, I was out in London working. I worked at 2 publishing houses and started from the bottom up as desk ed assistant and kind of worked my way up. And then when I finished my degree, I was able to then walk straight out of university, and this doesn't happen these days. I walked straight into my first job, all because I'd had that experience in industry rather than just the degree. So yes, I have a publishing background.
What kind of books did you publish?
Oh my God, lots.
Was it all sorts of different?
Yeah,
I want to say genre, but I think that's the right word.
Yeah, no, yes. The first book I ever published, the first company I ever worked for was a company called Churchill Livingstone, which is a medical book publishing company who are now part of Pearson, I think, which is where I ended up years later. And they used to be based in Clerkenwell in London, and I worked there for 6-9 months, something like that. And yeah, the first book I ever published was huge. I've actually got a copy of it upstairs, so I'm so proud of it. It was massive, and it was called Pediatric Neurology by this chappie, God knows, a really important doctor in like Great Ormond Street or something.
Oh wow.
Dr. E.M. Brett, I think his name was. And it was huge, it was massive, it had multiple contributors. It was really detailed, it was really complex, it was really scary. And it had a full colour plate section in the middle, which was a massive challenge with some really horrible, obscene photographs of things. But it was great. It was fascinating. And it was I was really proud of it. It was really cool.
So with those kind of books, was it sort of fairly low volume in terms of how many were sold? No.
No, it was quite big. I mean, I also worked on one of the editions of Grey's Anatomy, which is one of the big medical books that's still running now. There's editions coming out all the time for that one. I didn't publish the whole thing. I worked with somebody else on that. But yeah, no, they go around the world.
Oh, wow.
Really important books. There were some really cool ones there. And then I ended up at Routledge in London. Yeah, they publish, God, masses of books. They're part of Taylor and Francis, I think, now. I can't remember, I might have that wrong. And yeah, I did mainly educational stuff. So kind of teaching to learn, geography, some history stuff, which was a bit they were really great books. And we were just started back then, that was what, mid to late 90s. We were just starting to move from just books to CDs in the back of books and things like that, and digital publishing. And so I started dabbling with all of that kind of stuff, and that was really fun. That was really interesting. And then once I finished there, I think that's when I then walked into my first job at Krona, who are most famous for their loose leaf binders on tax and finance and stuff like that. A bit dry. But I managed all of their voluntary organisations titles, so information for charities, and it's all information about how to run your charity and how to do this. And it was quite different moving from books into something that is updated more regularly and frequently, and newsletters and, you know, little kind of pamphlets and things that go out every couple of months. So that was quite an interesting thing to do. And then I moved over to a government department and worked on a website for them. And then from there I ended up at what is now called Pearson. It's called something else when I started working on educational stuff in digital and technology.
Oh, wow. But it's a weird thing, publishing. I don't obviously know about what you do at all, but I can completely understand why people do have degrees in it. You say, people think about, but just from the little tiny bit of stuff that I've done with the self-publishing line, I have realized the huge voids in my knowledge. And that's just for me trying to get a book out there, let alone if you're trying to do everything for some of these books that are like literally manuals for life. I mean,
yeah,
crikey.
Well, it's the degree itself and the way of learning. I'm sure these sorts of courses still run, but they're really interesting. I mean, you know, it sounds a bit dry and boring to some perhaps, but, you know, there's so much that goes into it, like you say. There's all the copy editing and there's the proofreading. So we learn all the practical skills that you need to get something ready to, you know, before you even take it to a publishing house. But then you've got all the business side of it as well, and which a lot of people could do, but there's so much that goes into that about, you know, the costs of pulling something together, and what is your margin going to be, and is it even worth publishing, and that kind of thing. And then you've got the whole marketing aspect, which of course, you know, is an area of yours.
Well, but even then, it's different. Books, marketing books is different to marketing anything else I've ever marketed.
Yeah, but we did some great things as well about paper and printing and ink. There is just so much that goes into it, and it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, I dropped those bits when I moved through my course because it was really quite complicated and you needed like an A in A-level mathematics or something, and I wasn't going to do that for obvious reasons. But it's fascinating. The whole world is around publishing, book publishing, magazine publishing, everything. It's fascinating. There's so much to do.
Yeah. No, I've been really, I mean, people have said, it must be really difficult writing a book. Hand on heart, and it's not just me saying, I'm brilliant at this because I'm amazing. The writing was the easy bit.
Yeah, definitely.
It was the easy bit because you kind of plan it out, you know what you're going to say, you know what each chapter is going to cover, you know what we're going to cover in each chapter. And I probably planned it out on big sheets of paper because it's quite nice to get all your brain thoughts out. Gosh, I can't speak now. I've been reading a lot of stuff lately. On a piece of paper, and then you just organize it, and then you have a plan for what you need to write. And I do write a lot. I mean, obviously I write for clients, I write for websites, I write for various different publications. I've sent 2 articles off today for different magazines. So to me, the writing, genuinely the easy bit.
Yeah.
And when I got to 50,000 words, because that's, the book's at least 50,000 words. It's at least
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, yay, I've done it. The next bit's easy. Whoa, that if you're thinking of writing a book and you're thinking of self-publishing, genuinely the writing's easy bit. It really is. And I don't know how I would have navigated the next bit without Ruth, because obviously I've been doing this alongside my actual job as well. So you kind of get immersed in it and you're like, right, I understand this now. And then you do a process and that takes however long it takes to do. And then you kind of look at it again, or I look at it and go, I can't remember anything. I just learnt. Even sort of down ISBN numbers and how that then makes into something else. And it's really, really challenging. Great, but really challenging. And I guess as well, I know you're very experienced with publishing in like publishing in a publishing house.
Yeah.
But the whole self-publishing system has come on hugely. Now it's very acceptable to self-publish, whereas I imagine when you were working for various publishing houses, the self-published things you used to see were really naff. They like printed on your home printer kind of quality. It wasn't the same animal, was it?
It wasn't. And I think as well, it was quite hard to get noticed. If you're self-published. If you've got a publishing company behind you, they're going to put a lot of money into branding and marketing that product for you. But if you're self-publishing, I think even up to a few years ago, it was kind of frowned upon in a way. As well, it's not that good, or whatever. But I think that's why, for me and for your book, oh God, somebody's going to spot a typo now, but I thought that's why I felt it was quite important that we try and get it right. That we make sure we go through the whole process properly, and have something that is pretty good, if I may say so myself. But not because of me necessarily. I mean, it's a great book anyway. But I felt that it was quite important that But you're right, self-publishing, it has come on a long way. And I know quite a few people, quite a few friends who have self-published in the past. And I've had real success with it. And it's been really easy to do. So highly recommend it. Yeah,
I mean, I think obviously when we started, I spoke to Victoria Knowles-Lax, who has been on this podcast before. She's a friend of the podcast. She's a contributor to the book. Her book is called Make It Happen. Yes, and it's behind me. I'm just looking around. It's called Make It Happen, and it's a fab book. If you haven't read it, read it. And I know that she'd self-published, so I quizzed her about how she did it, and she suggested a system called Ingram Spark. That's correct, isn't it? Which is, again, fabulous. If you're thinking of self-publishing, do have a look at Ingram Spark. I'm not saying you should. None of this that we're talking about today means that you should do it this way, but I know that people are interested in how we did it, so I thought, why not help them? And then from that, Pressbooks is connected to Ingram Spark, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And this is the kind of layout side of it. How would you describe Pressbooks?
I would describe it as a kind of digital publishing tool, if you like. It helps you to import your manuscript. You can edit it live in that system if you want to.
I'm not allowed to.
No, you're not allowed to touch it. But yeah, you can choose your theme and lay everything out as you want. So yeah, it was really good to use, actually. I really enjoyed it.
And it took, I just wrote it all in Word, so I don't even know how many pages it was in Word. A lot. And obviously Ruth did do clever things, but it took that and laid it out into a proper book with sort of the title of the chapter on the bottom of each page and the page numbers to the right size. Bizarre, actually, when you see a sort of a big Word document transformed into something like that. So, and then of course I proofread it. I conned Lawrence into proofreading it. I conned my mother-in-law into proofreading it.
Is that before it came to me?
Yeah. But the thing is, when you write something, even Ruth's mother, bless her, if you're listening to this, Ruth's mum, thank you. she spotted a few typos a few days ago, and I read the pieces because she'd put what paragraph reference it was. I read it as what I thought was there, even though I knew it was wrong.
Yeah, I did too.
And I was like, oh gosh, I mean, but that's why you need fresh eyes on it. It is important, however you do it, I think, that you get some people who will help you just with the proofreading to spot obvious things that you can't read, you know, an it and an if. You read what you think is there, or stay and say, again, I read it as what I thought it was.
Yeah, definitely. But before you even get to that bit, you really want to have somebody copy edit the whole
What does
book.
that mean? What is copy editing versus, because there's all these terms, isn't there, in publishing that us mere mortals don't, well, us as in me, don't really understand what they mean at all.
No, you do. You understand a lot more than you think you do, and I think everybody else does as well. But the copy edit is really about the kind of spelling, grammar, formatting, style, all that kind of thing. So it's making sure that the entire thing makes sense. And that's something that you really want to do at the beginning. And you want to make sure that whoever is proofreading is a different person. Now, we did that slightly differently because we copy edited it. We took in all the changes. I had a lot of queries that you had to answer as well. And making sure that we had permission from various people to use their quotes and having that all recorded properly and including all the footnotes to references. And I scared you a lot with that. I know, it was quite funny.
Yeah, but I've actually done it right because obviously I think with what I do with the PR hat on, I know you can never use anyone's anything without written permission. So I had got written permission, but again, I did it so like long ago when I was writing the book. I went through each person. I've got this thing of like, I know I've done it, but I just panic I haven't done it properly because I've sort of slept since then, which is really unhelpful. But you know, fun for Ruth to see the panic go, I know I've done it. I know I've done it.
But then once you've done all of that, it's normally advisable to have a different person do the proofreading, and obviously I went through it again and proofread the whole thing, and I missed a whole bunch of stuff. I think there were about 11 typos up to last night,
This is what your mum
which my mum had then spotted.
Thank you, Ruth, mum.
But which then we took in, and that was absolutely fine. So yes.
But the good thing with the system, although I don't want to have to upload a new version, is that because it's print on demand with the self-publishing, if we do spot typos, we can just fix it and re-upload it, from what I can understand, which does take the pressure off a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't want
there will be something in there. There will be a typo or something, I'm sure. But it's just, you know, does the whole thing make sense? I mean, that's the most important thing, isn't it?
Let's hope so.
And, you know, we can, it does. And we can mark up another paper copy or something if we do spot anything, and then put out a second edition or something at a later date. So, you know, we can always update it and change it as we need to. It's not a problem.
So we've written the book, we've proofread it, then you got it and you copy edited it.
That's the one. Yeah.
Copy edited it.
Yes.
There we go. And then put it into this formatting software. And you also did all these links, didn't you? Because in addition to the printed version, because I have a thing like I like a printed book, there's also the online version, and that's quite the Kindle version, and that's really clever because you can then link to different chapters. You can, instead of saying this is the reference for this stat or this quote or this person, you can then hyperlink, can't you, in the footnotes, which is really cool.
Yes, and that was really, really easy to do. It's just flagging it on the system and it just does it for you. I really did not do anything special for that. And
then what did we do? It's only like last, what did we do? I mean, I'll tell you about the cover in another section of this.
Well, then we flapped and panicked a lot because we were getting close to publishing, and then I read the whole thing again actually because I was worried. I did. I was worried I'd missed something, and there were a couple of things, but we chose the theme, didn't we?
I love that thing because Lol read it through and he went, he said, "Oh, you've done a really good job picking that theme. I love the way the font is." I'm like, yeah, I didn't do that. And everything that Lol said that he loved, I was like, yeah, I didn't do that. I look at the bottom of each page. Yeah, that wasn't me either. That's Ruth. Yeah, that was Ruth.
The theme that we chose did all of that. So that's quite clever. And so we did that. I read it again. We flapped a little bit more. Had another panic, and then we hit the button, didn't we?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just have a few. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as say a full-on meltdown, but borderline over the cover, because I had the cover designed not by anybody that I knew. I mean, by a professional cover designer a while ago, and I really liked it. And it is largely what people are seeing today. And at the time, it looked great, and we had all the different files and the layered versions in case we wanted to change the copy on the back or anything like that. And then it still looked good, and then we tweaked the copy on the back a little bit because I think I'd won an award or something, and I thought, you know, you've got to put it in, haven't you, because you've just got to, really. And then it was Emily Cole who fixed the cover, and then she said, oh, you know, the spine's not in the middle of the cover. And I was like, what now? What? Who? What? Again, you just wouldn't expect the spine not to be in the middle of the cover when you have a cover designed. So that was a little bit stressful. Then we had a space because I had the ISBN number. We can talk about that because that's confusing. And I've now basically befriended somebody over at that service who now is like just taking me under their wing, who was lovely. And I had the ISBN, and that turns into a barcode with software. But you have to have a space on the back of your cover for it. So we had the space, and when you upload it, we used Amazon KDP for the actual uploading. You then have an online preview, and it looked really good. So we ordered the proof. Oh man, that was a rough day because you got the proof first, even though I ordered mine before you, which was annoying. And you know, everything was looking good, and then I got it, and I'm like, oh god, there's 2 bits on it that I think are like low res. And I am that person. I will, you know, I was thinking if it was someone else's, what would I say? And the rip at the top was just not sharp as it should have been. No. And the image on the back just wasn't, it was fine if you looked at it from a distance, but it just wasn't quite right. And there was another thing where, because the way the cover is, you've got the spine, and you've got those ridges, what do you call them, where you fold the pages back, you know, where the text is slightly gone over, and you clocked the text had gone over, but it wasn't worth redoing the whole cover for, etc. But then all of it together, and on Saturday I was like, I don't know how to fix this because I am not a graphic designer at all, and it was all like a layered EPS file. So I messaged Emily, bless her heart, who went into work, which I did not realize until she FaceTimed me. I'm like, you look like you're sat in the office. And she went, yeah, it was just easier. So she'd gone into work to fix it. What she then did, which I don't even think you know, is that we were trying to find the rip as an image. There's another word for it. Anyway, image. And we couldn't find a royalty-free rip. This was now about 6:30 on a Saturday night. She went and ripped a load of paper up, found her favorite rips, photographed them, imported them into the software. So the rip you see on that cover is a bespoke rip that Emily made.
Brilliant. That's fantastic.
That's madness.
That is madness, actually. Yeah.
She just did it. So I was like, oh, just okay, we can find one. It's quite difficult to search for that though on Google when you don't know any of the correct terminology. Like vector kept coming up, and she went, oh no, that wasn't the right word. But it's very stressful. And then I found the original of the photograph, which was sharper, so she redid it all. She's a little hero, bless her. That's Emily Cole off of Emily Cole Illustrations, for the record. She doesn't like just do ripping up paper and photographing it for a laugh. Bless her. So then I sent it off to get a new proof, but wasn't due until Wednesday, and I wanted to launch it on Wednesday because the school holidays kick in on Wednesday, and there was a whole thing about the right time to launch a book. Like, it's not this time, it's not July. it's a tricky time, but I think it is, whatever time you launch a book, it's tricky. I think middle summer holidays would have been a genuinely bad call. I think we just got in before the bad call time, because people are on holiday, so at least you can buy it and read it on holiday, and I would urge you to do that. Definitely. So then you showed it to your mum, didn't you? You showed that. Yeah.
Well, I received the proof.
Yeah.
I was having a flick through it and thought it was pretty good. And because I was going down over to Gloucestershire to the RDA Nationals at Hartbury and going to stay with my mum, I thought I'd take it with me so she could have a look, see what we've been up to. And, because she's got nothing better to do, really. She
look after your dog
and look after my dog for me while I was swanning around Hartbury. Bless her heart, she decided to start reading it. Now, my mum doesn't do Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or any social. She doesn't have an account at all.
She's stuck with it.
Hates social media with a passion.
I bet she loved the book then.
Well, bless her heart, she did. She read most of it. I did warn her off the section about SEO. I mean, you and I would find that quite interesting, but I really didn't think my mum would. Don't worry, I reread SEO, you're fine.
Okay.
But yeah, bless her. She sat down and she read the entire thing.
She's a hero.
For about 3-4 pages, because I needed to go home. And she really enjoyed it. She thought it was really well written and very well copy edited.
Yeah, but she definitely mentioned that bit.
Oh yeah. And she thought it was brilliant. And obviously she picked up a couple of things, which was super. Which we were then able to correct. And they were only little minor things, little minor suggestions.
When we say we, I was told, because I said, oh, can I just do Impress books? And Ruth went, yeah, do you know what you're doing? I said, no, I've never used it before. She went, do not touch it.
That's right. I gave up my Sunday afternoon in the sunshine. Well, didn't really, did I? I was sat in the sunshine with an iPad and updated it for you very quickly.
Yeah, but it did make me laugh when I was like, I'll do it. You're like, no. So then we downloaded that because it's 3 different versions. I've only used 2 different versions so far.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's good. Because there's a PDF for print, and then there's an EPUB version, which then goes into the Kindle version, because that doesn't actually run like a normal page turning book at all, does it?
What do you mean?
The words are different. Not the words are different. No, I don't mean that. The words aren't different. It's the same book. It looks different. They're like when you read on a Kindle versus a book, it's different.
Yeah. Well, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, I'm going to say this really haphazardly. It reorganizes itself, doesn't it? Depending on the size that you're looking at. So an EPUB version will take into consideration what you're viewing it on, whether it's, a phone or a Kindle or, the Kindle app on your computer or whatever. And you, the reader, control the font size and everything and how you turn the pages and all of that kind of thing. So that's what that does.
That makes a little bit more sense now.
Just learned something new.
It's changed all the font as well.
Yes, well, it's dependent on what the user wants to view it as. So, I mean, the power with Kindle and reading it in the Kindle app or on a Kindle itself is you choose the kind of font that you want to view your book in and the size of the font. I mean, because I have it quite big, the font on my Kindle, because if I'm lying in bed, I don't like wearing my glasses. So I have to make the text quite big so that I can see it. And you can change the font as well. Fairly certain you can. You're looking puzzled at me.
No,
I'm fairly certain you can.
I've got it on my phone now. I'm just looking. I didn't know you could do any of these things. I don't, for the record, no, you blooming well can. You can change the font. I don't use Kindle though. I buy books. You can make it really big.
Yeah.
Oh, you can change the brightness. You can change the layout. You can make the pages different colors. The spacing. I did not. Well, that makes a lot more sense now. Because I prefer an actual book where you turn the pages and you fold the corners over. So yeah, then we re-uploaded those bits, and then it says on KDP that it takes up to 72 hours to go live. Now I thought it would be close to 72 hours, and I wanted it out for Wednesday. So we pressed the button last night, and within 2 hours the flipping thing was live. So all my Wednesday plans went to hell, because I've organized, well, I'm partway through finishing the extras that go with it. So there will be a free course for people that buy it in the first 2 weeks. I feel like this podcast needs to go out in the first 2 weeks, otherwise that's going to be a rubbish piece of information. About content creation for social media and kind of planning your social media content, which if I sold it, it would be over 50 quid, because it would, to be honest. It's got good stuff in it. If people buy over the summer, then they can also have both things. Then there will be a sort of online, I want to say conference, but that's such a rubbish word, an online something like a conference, kind of party. No, that sounds a bit more friendly. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go for party in September with some of the contributors to the book, hopefully, which people will get free access to if they buy the book during the summer. And then if people buy 10 copies or more, they can have a free one-to-one session with me. And you might think 10's a lot, but I think it makes an excellent laptop stand. If you stacked them up, you could balance your laptop on them. You could give them as gifts. You could give them as doorstops. You can make a doorstop, bit of baling twine around to make a doorstop. You could read them, not all of them, because they should be the same. Literally, the possibilities are endless for what you can do with your 10 books. So,
well, there are 14 chapters. So you could buy 14 and just read a chapter from each copy.
That's a really good use of your time and money.
Mm-hmm.
Buy 14, read one. I mean, some you would read 2 chapters of, but maybe rotate them.
Yes.
That's a brilliant idea. Yeah, you should have been involved when I was trying to write the blurb of the situation. Yeah, so that's what we're doing, and it's live in the world now.
In all seriousness, though, it could be ideal for small business groups, or something, to buy a whole load of copies and then distribute those amongst their clients.
Yeah, that would be a good thing if you're listening and you have a small business group. I know a really good book that's just come out. It's called Small and Supercharged as well, because why wouldn't it be? And it's small steps to supercharge your brand on a budget.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Got the tagline.
Nailed it.
So I was going to think of some tips if somebody wants to do self-publishing, but I feel that you are probably better placed to give tips. I would say, oh God, what have I learned? It'll take longer than you think, a lot longer than you think.
Mm-hmm.
The writing is the easy bit.
Yeah.
Really is. Be prepared that as you get closer to launch, you will feel physically sick most days. And she says, I don't get nervous. I think because I'm always trying to sort of push myself a bit, and I was really terrified of public speaking, so I gave a TEDx talk. Like, I'm always trying to sort of conquer those things. So me going to speak now in front of people doesn't bother me at all. I quite look forward to it. I get quite excited about it. Writing an article for a magazine, quite excited about it, know what I'm doing. So you're kind of pushing yourself, but not. This feels like a piece of my soul has gone out in that book, which sounds really dramatic, but it's I think it's been such a big deal. It is such a big deal. I've always wanted to write a book. So putting it out there into the world when it could be criticized, and I know people will criticize it, it's fine. But because you're so, you put so much into it, you don't want people to be mean about it. But equally, if it just sits and lives here in a proof form, then it has got the ability, I genuinely think, I'm not just saying this as a sales pitch, but it will help people. If they follow the steps, it will help them to promote their business better, even if they have nothing at all to spend on it. And that's got to be worth people don't think about the butterflies in your stomach. Mine, honestly, they're killing each other with like chainsaws or something. This morning I woke up, I was like, oh, I don't feel well. Yeah, I think that shows that you care. And even though it's not a pleasant feeling, I think it shows you care. And it's had 3 reviews now, which is lovely. Hopefully I'll get some more soon, which are nice. And that's really lovely. And I've had loads of people tag me on Instagram when they've bought it and screenshot and share that they've bought it, and really lovely comments, which are so nice and unexpected. But I think, it'll take longer than you think. You will want to vomit as it gets closer to publication date. Even if you try really hard, there will be a mistake in it. I know there's going to be a mistake in it. If you're listening and you found it, don't tell me. Let us live for longer just thinking that it's perfect. But there will be, because nothing is perfect. And it's been read so many times by different people, but you will just overlook things, and you have to just accept that, I think. I'm sure there are other tips, but I think they're probably the main ones. What are your tips?
I would say involve as many professionals as you can. So
oh god, we've got another shout out talking about that for Jane Badger.
Actually, yeah, we have. She's definitely a really she knows a hell of a lot. She's definitely a good person to talk to. But I would say make sure that you find somebody to copy edit and somebody else to proofread your manuscript for you, because it just kind of turns it into, I was going to sound awful, turns it into something that makes sense. Like it didn't make sense before, and it did.
I used to like you.
No, it picks up the
I know what you mean,
consistencies,
yeah,
and things like that. I mean, I remember there were a couple of paragraphs that were repeated in a few places talking about the same thing, and I was like, oh, why are we talking about that again? That doesn't make sense. You mentioned it once, let's leave it there. I mean, that's just a really easy example that jumps to mind. But I think it's quite, from my experience, my publishing experience, it's really quite important to make sure you've got a professional copy editor, somebody who will actually sit down and mark up a manuscript, and then take in those changes on a digital copy, and then somebody else to proofread it afterwards to make sure that those changes have been taken in correctly, and that the whole thing makes sense. It's great to have well-meaning friends and family and whatever, and people who will read through something and say, yeah, that's brilliant, and they genuinely mean it. But I think it's worth its weight in gold to have a couple of professionals to work with, and you can find very easily, and a good person to talk to if any of your listeners are thinking about self-publishing, is Jane Badger from Jane Badger Books. Definitely. But you can really easily find freelance copy editors and proofreaders that can help you with all of that, at a reasonable price as well. I'd also say do your research, and that's one thing that you did in the early days, on how to self-publish. Yes. And that's how we came by Ingram Spark and Pressbooks and everything. So do your research about how to actually do it. Don't just write something and think that some publisher's going to publish it for you. When I worked in publishing, the number of unsolicited manuscripts that I received was ridiculous. And if they didn't fit the list, or the ideas that we had, or our publishing plans for that year or the next couple of years, it didn't see the light of day. And we just had a template that we would to reject manuscripts that we would just send out quite regularly without even really having the opportunity to look at them. Publishers really do get bombarded with this stuff, and they don't have the time. So don't rely on that. So yeah, it's really important to do your research first, and understand the whole process, and involve as many experts. Not that I necessarily am one, but involve as many experts as you possibly can, and do it properly.
Yeah, and I think I did oh god, what's it called? I did submit my what do you call it, proposal to a few publishers, and actually they were really lovely. I'm not just saying that because for my ego, but everybody I did submit it to was really lovely in their response. But one had published something very, very similar, and they have to have a kind of diversity across their range, don't they? And again, I had some really nice feedback from them. It was all really supportive, even if the answer was no, which it obviously was. They were really nice about it, really nice about the book, and they could see the opportunity for it, just not with them, which they didn't have to say. And I even replied to one of them and said, is it possible to have some feedback? And bless them, they did, which was really kind. But no, Jane Badger Books, because that was the kind of process from that side of it. But actually we were horribly inexperienced with the KDP side, weren't we? Because Ruth obviously knows all about the the formatting and all that, because you would have done that in your previous life.
Yeah,
but you would
I had people do the rest.
Yeah, which she kept saying, oh, I used to have people to do that. And I'm like, we are the people, and I'm not allowed to touch anything. But Jane, who is Jane Badger Books, she publishes beautiful horse and pony fiction and some non-fiction as well, I think, over at Jane Badger Books. I sent her a message going, we're so confused, we don't know what to do now. And she was just awesome, wasn't she? She came on a Zoom with us, she helped us, and Ruth kept going, oh, that's quite straightforward. And I'm going, I don't understand what it means. I was given like projects to do, so I often bought some ISBN numbers, and then what else did I go and sort my author page? Like, I don't think I was, yes. I think I was given like,
sort your author page out.
You know, when you can have like a toddler knocking around and you just want them to just go away so the adults can talk. I was the toddler that kept being sent off on random tasks to stop asking questions. Yeah, but it worked.
It did.
She's been absolutely brilliant, and I was quizzing her this morning actually about something as well, and she's just an absolute legend. So huge thank you to you as well, Jane, for your input, because I think I'd have probably pushed Ruth over the edge without it, to be honest, with all my questions.
No comment.
Oh gosh. So is there anything else you would like to add before I urge everybody who's listening to go and buy the book, because I want it to be a bestseller?
Buy the book. But if you spot a typo, don't tell me. Don't hold me responsible.
Hold Ruth completely responsible. No. I wasn't allowed to change anything.
I'm sure it'll be fine. No, it was really good. It was really good fun to do. I miss that side of publishing. Back in the day, millions of years ago, working in London, and you know, it was really good fun. I really enjoyed it. So it was nice to kind of have a glimpse back to what life used to be, and do something that I really enjoyed. Not that I don't enjoy what I do now, because obviously I do, but
it's quite different now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And you know, when something like that is kind of in your bones, if you like, it's quite exciting to get back to it and do what you love. So yeah, no, thank you for involving me. And yeah, I think.
Did you fancy doing it again?
No, you can find a professional next time.
You are my professional. Well, thank you very much, Ruth, because I would have really been struggling. It would have been another 5 years. Because I think, to be fair, if you're trying to write a book and you are trying to run your business and everything else, stuff does throw itself in your way. And it wasn't that I was putting it off deliberately. It's just if I have got client work to do, then that always takes priority. So it was quite an effort, I think, especially when it was stuff that I couldn't do easily. Like some of this stuff does take an amount of time to do, and that's hard. But thank you very, very much. You are worth your weight in gold, which admittedly she's only tiny, so that's not in diamonds maybe. Huge thank you to Emily for your Saturday afternoon work, and for the work before then, and to Jane for helping us, and also Ruth's mum, yes, who I just called Mummy Chapel, which is completely wrong.
No, it is completely wrong. She's not Mummy Chapel.
No, she's not, because that would be Brian's mum, wouldn't it?
That would be Brian's mum, yeah.
Yeah,
no, she's
and
just mum.
That would be weird.
She's a superstar. She is an absolute legend, actually.
Ruth's mum, the superstar. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who has bought it, left lovely comments, left nice reviews. It really does mean a huge amount. If you want to find it, if you go onto Amazon, because that's where it is, and type in either my name, obviously spelled correctly, or Small and Supercharged. I have done a web page on my website as well, but honestly it just points you to Amazon, so just cut out the middleman, go to Amazon, I would. Yeah, so I think that's about it. I mean, if you can find out more about Ruth from Dressage Anywhere at dressageanywhere.com. Do you want to take on any more of these kind of projects, Ruth?
No thanks.
Are you sure?
Absolutely positive. Yeah.
Should we suggest people go and find Jane? Because
yes,
yeah,
definitely.
Find Jane.
Go and find a professional.
Cross Jane's palm with silver.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she will help. Thank you ever so much. I will leave you in peace. Thank you, Ruth. You are a legend.
Bye.
And just a little update on the book. I know in the podcast that you've just listened to, I said I would love it to get to number one, and indeed it did. It got to number one in under 24 hours in the public relations charts, which is awesome. And at one point it held number one and number four at the same time, number one for the paperback and number four for the Kindle version. And it was also ranking in small business. I think they were the two categories they were listed under. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a little update and thank you so much for all your support. It means the absolute world to me. Thank you.